And the Supervisor Richard Forster reporting on our Board of Supervisors bi-monthly meeting of September 9th, 2014. Starting off the meeting today, we had Patricia Leskian, our new Amador County Ag Commissioner. She presented us with a 2013 agricultural crop and livestock report, reporting about primarily our cattle industry is our biggest, but sheep is not far behind it. And then we have our biggest crop by far is the vineyards and the grapes that come off of those. So next up, Supervisor Novelli and Plaz talked about the ambulance tickets, and this is American Legion Ambulance. And what's noteworthy here is there has been an agreement negotiated with our emergency responders so that for $190, you can buy a yearly ambulance ticket that will cover American Legion Ambulance as well as all three air transport providers. So where that's important is if your insurance doesn't pick up all of that air transport bill or that ambulance bill, this ticket will basically cover it for $190, and really a great deal. Moving on to our board meeting, first up we had grand jury and the responses that were made by our Board of Supervisors. The county was asked to respond on 3 areas. Only 2 of those were covered today, so this item will come back at a future meeting. But one is the response from our Health and Human Services Department on Child Protective Services. That response was given by Jim Foley. The other was on the Health and Human Services building and the construction of that and negotiating the agreement. The change that I asked for in that was that disagreeing with the grand jury on their version of due diligence and our version of due diligence. As far as we're concerned, due diligence is listening to your staff, but it's also listening to your consultants and analyzing what they give you in order to make a decision. The way I look at it, you hire people to give you the advice to make a proper decision. Whether that advice is proper and correct is another matter for future discussion. The Amador Council on Tourism was up next. Maureen Funk, their executive director, spoke about their budget, and this is an item that the board has requested, that ACT was chosen to receive the extra 4% of the transient occupancy tax increase from 6 to 10% when our county passed a measure to allow that to happen. That 4% extra generated $85,000. That 85, as Ms. Funk said, coupled with the community partnerships, has grown into about $128,000. The TOT continues to fluctuate, but pretty much it's going up. As our CAO, Chuck Eiley, said, need to be careful on how you look at the figures. What they show for July and August is that a slight decrease in TOT, but sometimes there's a lag in people submitting those TOT payments. So at this time, everything is going smoothly. ACT is continuing to work on performance measures and accountability for those funds, as it is public dollars that they're receiving. And by the way, that TOT is for hotel, motel, room taxes, and for nothing else. Sales tax for sales is above and beyond that, or just a different animal altogether. We had John Kingsbury in from Mountain County Water Resources Association. He talked about the adoption of a North State Water Alliance policy principles and asked our board to adopt those principles. We are a member of that Mountain County's Water Resources. So the priorities that they're talking about are infrastructure improvements, operational certainty, unified regulatory approaches, and water conservation as a way of life. Part of their principles they are supporting by supporting the water bond that has, I believe, $2.3 billion for storage in that water bond, but they're also advancing stewardship of the best use of the Sierra Nevada mountains and the water that comes off there across all the watersheds and headwaters in the states, and also increasing surface water storage starting at the Sierras, which is one thing I just talked about. In that light, they do not support wild and scenic, and they were opposed to SB 1199 with the current language that was in that bill, because that would significantly restrict our ability, if someone objects, to do something like raise, lower, or upper bear. Anyway, the board did go ahead and adopt those policies and principles. The board took action on Amador Cafe and Bakery, asking for a full waiver of fees. The issue here is a small business, 4 outdoor tables, probably a good restaurant, but the fees amounted to about $1,250. The problem is there's no differentiation in use permits, whether they're small, large, ministerial, so the board gave him a payment plan. Other items that came up, the board did send a thank you letter to Assembly, or authorized a thank you letter to Senator Berryhill and Assemblyman Bigelow for their support of our position on SB 1199, the Wild and Scenic. Other issues took place at the board. If you want to hear about those, you can go on our website, www.amadorgov.org, or you can call the board office, 223-6470, have a discussion with any one of us. We're going to go to a break now. We'll be right back with TSPN.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.